three. Horton back to the end zone.
28-yard play. Guess who? Body up the middle, making another move to the outside. 15, 10, end zone again.
Keeps it. Nice move by Brown. He's got space. He's got 6. 35-yard touchdown for Byron Brown. A record-setting night for the South Florida quarterback.
Down so far, a little bit of a high snap. Genty right up the middle. Genty has room. Ashton Genty, give him 6.
Second and long. Lagar tries to pin it in. Rose, it does. Rose stays up. The Suns offense 4-3 wheels. Incredible effort for Rose.
The G5 Hive. All G5, all the time.
How can we get more people interested? Here we are, deep diving into the G5 college football landscapes. We've been growing like crazy with followers on X, YouTube subscribers. Speaking of which, if you are watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. And if you're watching us on X, please give a follow and like and retweet. And if you're listening to us in podcast form, please rate and review. All right. A G5 only top 25 poll by Hero Sports. This is a weekly poll being put out by Hero Sports. Kudos and thanks to them. We are one of the voters in this poll, along with a lot of other folks we interviewed during our Worker Bee series and other folks that are really knowledgeable about G5 college football. The preseason top 25 poll is out for our audio medium. Go check out our YouTube channel. We've got all 25 teams here. I'm not going to go through all of them. You're watching it. You can look at it. For our audio medium, I do want to highlight our top 5. So we have Boise State at number 1 with 11 first place votes. We have Memphis coming in at number 2 with 7 first place votes. Liberty at number 3 with 1 first place vote. Number 4, Appalachian State coming in at number 5, Tulane, Green Wave. We had a couple other notables that we wanted to talk about. Number 7, UTSA Roadrunners. They also got 1 first place vote. And number 11, Miami of Ohio Redhawks. We have them atop the Mid-American. So, again, there are the 25 teams making up the G5 only top 25 poll by Hero Sports. Now, Justice, I want to talk a little bit about some differences. What were the biggest differences in our votes versus the consensus?
So before we get to the differences, I guess we share our personal top 5.
Sure.
And it's a little bit different than what the consensus was. So we had Memphis number 1. And in the consensus poll, they were number 2. We had Boise State number 2. Consensus, they were number 1. We had App State number 3. Consensus number 4. Liberty, we had them at number 4. They were consensus number 3. And then we agreed with the consensus as far as having Tulane number 5. So we just swapped Memphis and Boise. Memphis and Boise, and then App State and Liberty. But, I think you're splitting hairs really between those top 5, and that kind of why they were the consensus top 5. But there were some big differences between what we submitted as our top 25 poll and what the consensus had in their top 25. And so the biggest difference in terms of a delta was Tulsa. We had Tulsa as number 22 in our top 25 poll. And the consensus, if I count it out, they would have had them at number 46. So that's almost double. It's more than double than what we had, right? I think Luke and I are both. I think Tulsa. I think the big question mark with Tulsa is the quarterback situation. Tulsa did not have a great season last year, but that wasn't because of lack of talent. I think that was really the quarterback play was not good. Tulsa looked a lot better towards the end of the season when they had Kirk Francis out there. They bring in Cooper Lagar from Utah State. Kirk Francis returns. Cardell Williams returns. It really seems like this is going to be kind of Kirk Francis's job. And and he might not have the ceiling of a Cardell Williams per se, but I think he's going to offer them, a lot more consistency. And I think the same would be true if they started Cooper Lagai as well. And so I just think if they can get that consistent quarterback play, that Tulsa's from a record standpoint is gonna be much improved, and people are gonna be like, oh, why didn't we think about Tulsa here in 2024?
Yep, and then you look at their schedule. So we got Northwest State, Arkansas State, then Oklahoma State, Louisiana Tech. So like right there in those first 4 games,
It could be 3-1 easily.
3-1. Yep, 2-2, 3-1. North Texas. You'll get them at the middle of the season. I think that will be a tough matchup on the road. You've got Army at home. Again, that's just hard to prep for Army, but I think that they should. They can beat Army. You got the Temple Owls. You got UTSA. That team, with new quarterback. We'll see what they look like this year. UAB, East Carolina, South Florida will be a tough game. Luckily, you go to South Florida, so it's not like you have to waste a home game there. And then Florida Atlantic. So, like, their schedule doesn't look all that tough. I think, consensus 46 is looking at Tulsa from what they have been and not what they can be.
Absolutely. So before we get to our next biggest difference, Billy, yes, Texas State is on the list. They're number 6. So if you're watching in on video form, we just kind of use the logos to try to fit all 25 teams on here versus the names. But yeah, the Texas State Bobcats are number 6. I want to say, I think they were probably, I don't know where we had them, Luke. Do you remember? It was definitely in the top 10. I don't know if they were our number 16, but they were definitely in our top 10. But consensus has the Texas State Bobcats number 6 there, Billy. All right. The next biggest difference for us, we had the Sam Houston Bearcats, number 21. The consensus had them double, had them at number 42. And again, I think kind of the same thing with Tulsa. Folks are looking at what happened last season and looking at the record. Sam Houston was a much better team, I feel like, than their record indicated last year. Liberty should have lost. Liberty should have lost to Sam Houston. Like, Sam Houston, they blew that game, but at the very end, and Liberty should have lost to them, and that kind of shows you the quality of Sam Houston. And I think the thing that really held Sam Houston back a year ago, kind of the same as Tulsa, was quarterback play. And they bring in Jace Bauer coming from Central Michigan. They bring in Hunter Watson coming. I believe he came over from either JUCO or Division II. I'm not 100% sure on that. From a JUCO, and word is that it's quite a battle between these two guys. And Hunter Watson has looked really, really good. I think a lot of folks just assumed, hey, it's going to be Jace Bauer, and it still might be Jace Bauer. But Hunter Watson is definitely giving him a run for the money and has looked really, really good in this offense. And, I think Sam Houston, again, like Tulsa, is going to surprise some folks.
You know what? I'm going to probably need to get some Sam Houston gear or something, because as the season has gone on, I feel like I am talking them up more and more and more. I went on to a show to talk about this conference, and the second thing I said in there, is I think Sam Houston ends up being in the conference championship game against Liberty. And it was right out the bat, and DraftKings, I don't know what they have them today, but when we were prepping for this, they were at 4.5. I think that they crushed that number. I am all about the Sam Houston State team, or Sam Houston, sorry, they dropped the state for football. But yeah, I think Hunter Watson is a name that people need to get familiar with. I don't think he's going to get the start. I do feel like that they will go with Jace Bauer for the first couple games, and then because he's just got that experience. And then you got Hawaii, and I think Hawaii is a team that you can beat. I think Hawaii is a team that's going to throw the ball a lot, so you're going to get your chances to throw. And, maybe they give him the second half of that game, or maybe they give him the full game. But I am in the camp where I believe Hunter Watson is the guy that is going to end up leading this team. We'll see how the first two games go. I'm trying to remember who they play those first two games. I know UCF is one of them, and cannot for the life of me remember the first game. But I think it's Hunter Watson, Quaviz Humphreys. Get to know the name Quaviz Humphreys. This team is gonna shock a lot of people. They were the consensus 42. We had them at 21.
Next up, we had North Texas at number 23. The consensus on them was number 41. And again, looking at results from last season, and the big, I guess to me, like the thing that I have a hard time with North Texas, folks moved Texas State up to number 6, right? Now they had a better season a year ago than North Texas, but North Texas and Texas State, I feel like have a lot of similarities. Last season, the defense wasn't great at either team, right? And so North Texas, when we talked to Brett Vito during our Worker Bee series, he kind of, he told us, hey, the problem was a year ago they wanted to run this 3-3-5. They didn't have the guys up front to run a 3-3-5. They have gone out and made a concerted effort to get the guys that they feel can run this system. And I'm a believer. I think that defense is going to be much improved, and I think North Texas again is gonna like Texas State's going to surprise some folks. The offense is already good. They bring in Chandler Morris from TCU. Really, my biggest concern with North Texas is Chandler Morris staying healthy. That's been a problem for him the last 2 seasons at TCU. The year TCU went to the national championship game, Chandler Morris won that job. He was the starter. He got injured, lost the job, and kind of got Wally Pipp there a little bit, and then last year again won the job, was the starter, got hurt. Josh Hoover comes in and plays outstanding, and the rest is history. So he's had that injury bug, and so that's going to be a big key. And they don't have a lot of depth behind them, and so Chandler Morris is going to kind of be the key, I feel like, to North Texas this season. But assuming he's healthy, I think they're in for a good year.
And then we had Rice at number 10. You don't see Rice at all in there. We had Rice at number 10. They were a consensus number 26. We love us some Rice Owls.
Absolutely. I mean, that's not the biggest delta, but that's that was the biggest shocker to me that Rice wasn't anywhere on this top 25. They are one of the top teams in terms of returning production. I think they lost 2 starters from a season ago.
One. I think just one. They bring back. I think they bring back. I think maybe they lost one offensive lineman, and then that was it.
And they lost quarterback. Well, they lost their quarterback.
Yeah,
but by our count, we think they brought in a better quarterback. They lost JT Daniels, but they bring in EJ Warner from Temple, one of the top passers in the American the last 2 seasons. I think people are just. I don't know. I mean, they're not flashy. I think people are just really, really sleeping on Rice this year, and we'll talk about them a lot more when we do our conference preview, man. But that really shocked me that Rice was not in the top 25. They were the first team out, so they got the most votes that didn't make it in. But man, like Rice, I think I don't know if anyone had Rice. We'll have to ask Hero Sports if anyone had Rice higher than we did. That'd be a fun thing to kind of track as we go throughout the season for sure.
Then we had Louisiana at number 25. They were the consensus number. Well, it says 10 here. I don't think.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yep. Number 15. Number 15. Sorry.
Oh, 15. Okay.
Yeah, they were number 15. Consensus number 15. We had them at 25.
So yeah, I don't know. Just listening to that, Worker Bee series and what I mean, there's a lot to be hopeful for. I just, looking at everybody else, I I think when we were putting this together, like I'm gonna have to get this going here to figure out where we had them. But I think you were maybe higher on them than I was, and I was dragging them down between you and me.
I don't think I
You
had
can
him
talk.
any higher than 20, but I think, and this to me is the puzzling thing about Louisiana. I think the reason why they're so high in a lot of people's minds is because of the returning production. But those same people don't talk about Rice in that same way. And like, I'm way more excited about Rice than I am Louisiana. Um, I mean, I don't think. I mean, Louisiana I think's an okay team. I think but I don't think they're like. And again, we'll talk about them in our preview. I just think folks are underestimating or overestimating their returning production, and severely underestimating Rice. Kind of the exact opposite there. I just don't know that. I mean, Louisiana, like they're a good team. They're good at everything. I don't think they're great at anything.
Then let's hear. We did not have number 16 Troy, and we did not have number 17 Jacksonville State ranked, but they were in our next group of 8 teams that we considered when we made this list. Justice and I kind of made our list, and then kind of went by, had some give and take. But yeah, that is, we did not have number 16 Troy or 17 Jacksonville State in there.
And in both of those, like we considered, I think there's just a lot of turnover at Troy, and that's I think why we're a little bit more down on them maybe than others. They certainly may prove to be a top 25 team, but I think we were kind of more of a hey, let them prove it first to us. A lot of personnel changing over, a lot of coaching. The whole coaching staff's new, so we just kind of want to see what Troy will do here in 2024 before we put them in our top 25. And then Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State lost a ton, man. They lose quarterback Zion Webb, and then where they really took some hits was on the defense, and that was one of the better, if not the best, G5 defenses a year ago. But they lost a ton. They lose Chris Hardy. They lose Larry Worth at linebacker, Colby Fuqua at defensive back, and they had some other losses there as well. And so that's kind of, for me anyway, what scares me off Jacksonville State. And they lost their coordinator, right? They lost their defensive coordinator as well. And so I'm just not sure that I think the defense will be good. I don't think they'll be as good as last season. And so that's kind of was my reasoning for not including them in our top 25.
And for me, this top 25 of not having Jacksonville State in there is, you have head coach, first year head coach here at Jacksonville State goes to a bowl win in Rich Rodriguez. Were you a big fan of Louisiana Monroe last year? Well, I mean, a lot of guys on that team were from Louisiana Monroe, and they go out there and they win a bowl game in their first. And Louisiana Monroe's like, hey, that should have been our bowl win. And now they lose a lot of those guys. So again, I think this is a common theme here is looking back at last year and letting last year dictate what this year is going to be. I believe it was Fat Joe the great Fat Joe once said, yesterday's price is not today's price.
Absolutely. And you see that we've seen that a lot in this poll, right? And so yeah, that's kind of where I think our why we have some differences that other folks don't necessarily see things the same way, or why they don't see them the same way. And then the last difference is 2 teams that are ranked, and we didn't have them in our top 25. They weren't. We had like a group of 8 teams that we were considering, and they weren't in that group either. And that's number 21 Army and number 22 Bowling Green.
Yeah, I just liked a lot more teams than what we had there. I'm trying to think of the teams that I had there. I think I was considering San Diego State. I was looking at Ball State. I really kind of like Middle Tennessee State a little bit. I know the betting department does not. I think they're at like 5 games or 5.5 games or something. But I kind of like Middle Tennessee State. I would have Jacksonville State over them. UTEP. I want to like UTEP. I think I'm going to be a year too early, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But I kind of like what UTEP's doing.
Yeah, I mean, Army moves to a new conference. They're in the American. I think I don't know. I don't think Army's a bad team, but like I feel like they're kind of like from a record standpoint, they'll be similar to what they were a year ago, right? Somewhere around 500, maybe a game, maybe 2 games over 500, maybe. And then Bowling Green, I think for me the problem with Bowling Green is quarterback, right? Number one, they're in the MAC, so all MAC teams typically play like a brutal out of conference schedule. I don't think Bowling Green is any different in that regard, and like they kind of have 2 quarterbacks that rotate there with Connor Bazelak and Camden North, and I don't know. I just feel like you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none, right? You're constantly rotating, and so to me, I just too many questions at quarterback and that quarterback play for Bowling Green. I think they got a strong running game there with Tyrion Stewart, assuming he's back to full health. They got probably the best tight end in all of the group of 5 in Harold Fannin Jr. A decent defense, but for me, it's just that quarterback play is not up to snuff for me for the Falcons to kind of put them into my top 25. Do you have anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, I just wanted to address Billy Tuesday's comment.
Oh yeah, that's where I was going to go.
So Billy Tuesday says, do you guys support separate G5 national rankings and playoffs? I say no. We kind of talked about this a little bit during the year, but there was an article by the ODU Monarchists that talked about doing like a, kind of like the Rose Bowl for the Big Ten and Pac-12 champion, back in the day, like the granddaddy of them all. Wouldn't it be great if we had something similar for that for the G5? Go to like South Alabama, go to New Orleans, go to LA,
Boise,
go to Idaho, whatever that may be, but have something. You've got 5 teams. You've got one team that's always going to be making the playoff. So you always pin 2 conferences, in those 2 bowls. I think, I would like a South Alabama because then you kind of feed into the Reese's Senior Bowl stuff and whatnot. And South Alabama's been rich in history. Heck, you could even go to Marshall. I don't know how many people want to go to Marshall there, but there's a lot of history there with the Marshall. But, from a marketing standpoint, you go to LA, you go to New Orleans, something like that where all roads lead to New Orleans or something. And then whatever team gets plucked to make the playoffs, then you just have this floater team that goes in and plays and your conference champion goes in there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great idea. We've talked about it a couple times, this year. And I think it kind of gives you the best of both worlds, right? So you get you're still part of the FBS playoff. Kind of like Kendrick was alluding to, you're still part of the, you still get your shot at winning a national title, and then you take those other 4 teams and you match them up, and so you're kind of getting a mini playoff, if you will, among the G5, but it's all done within the current system, right? And so you're not losing anything by doing that. And I think another thing it does is, if the G5 wants to kind of do their own thing, do something like this first. Like it's kind of an intermediary step, kind of gives you the best of both worlds, and maybe it kind of helps you understand what the appetite is for having your own G5 playoff before you like fully go and commit to that, and then you realize, hey, we screwed up. We shouldn't have done this. Because I can tell you, once you give that up, you're not getting it back. And I think that's the major problem with the G5 doing their own thing, because once they give up that automatic berth, buddy, there will be no turning back. That will not happen. And so I think this kind of hybrid approach, I guess, is the best way to term it, that the ODU Monarchists came up with is a really great idea. And build some fanfare around those 2 bowl games, right? Whether, like Luke said, whether it's the the LA Bowl, the New Orleans Bowl, the bowl down in Mobile, Alabama, or the bowl, the famous Idaho Bowl there in Boise. Those are, I think, some great options to kind of be that G5 versus G5 champion versus champion. Let's say, for instance, if it happened a year ago, right, Liberty would have made the playoffs. So that's the Conference USA, the winner going to the playoffs. So then you take maybe the MAC champion versus the Mountain West champion. And then you take the Sun Belt champion versus the AAC champion. And they play each other, and you kind of get some great G5 versus G5 matchups. Man, I'd love to see it. Love to see it. Hopefully we can talk that idea into existence here in the not too distant future.
We appreciate the support that we got over here in the offseason. 2024 is coming on. Come back and join us next week as we discuss what happened in week 0. And we look forward to a full slate of G5 games for week 1 in 2024 season. And as always, bring you up to date on all the latest news and the happenings in the world of the G5 college football. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. If you're watching us on X, please give us a follow, a like, a retweet. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, please subscribe. Leave those 5-star ratings and review. Thank you all for your support. Until the next time, we are the G5 Hive.